You think it's lust, but it's the wound that never healed. Jordan Peterson. There's a moment, quiet, fleeting, yet unforgettable, when you feel drawn to someone with such intensity that you swear it must be lust. It feels primal, electric, urgent, but peel back the surface and you may find that what you call desire is something else entirely. Jordan Peterson, through his insights on human behavior, emotional trauma, and the deep recesses of the unconscious, helps us confront this chilling truth. What you think is lust might actually be a wound. Not just any wound, but one that never healed. One that lingers in the shadows of your psyche, whispering, manipulating, seducing. Lust in this frame is not hunger for flesh, but a hunger for completion, for safety, for the love you never received. In today's journey, we unravel a concept few dare to examine. What if lust is a symptom, not a root? What if attraction is not instinct, but a reflection of pain? We will dissect this idea with the brutal clarity that Jordan Peterson is known for. We'll explore the hidden links between childhood trauma and adult obsession, between emotional neglect and sexual fixation. This is not a message for the faint of heart. It demands honesty, vulnerability, a willingness to confront the ghosts in your mirror. Because until you name the wound beneath the lust, you will keep chasing validation through the bodies of people who can never heal you. You will confuse pain with pleasure, rejection with desire, abandonment with chemistry, and worst of all, you will keep calling it love. Let's begin. Part 1. The hidden psychology of attraction. Why we chase what hurts us. One of the most overlooked psychological truths that Jordan Peterson echoes again and again is this: the human psyche is not wired primarily for happiness, but for familiarity. We are not creatures of logic. We are creatures of pattern. What feels safe to us is rarely what is healthy. More often, it's what is familiar, even if that familiarity comes from pain. Nowhere is this more true than in attraction. You meet someone and feel a spark. Your heart races. Your skin tingles. You feel that they see you like no one else ever has. But what you're really experiencing is something much deeper than lust. You are feeling the resonance of an old wound. This person somehow, some way, matches the emotional imprint of someone from your past. Perhaps a parent who withheld affection, a caregiver who was emotionally unpredictable, a first love who ghosted you. Your subconscious recognizes this pattern, and the child within you screams, "Maybe this time I can finally get it right." This is what Peterson often refers to when he speaks about chaos and order. The feminine, in many of his frameworks, is associated with chaos, not as a moral judgment, but as a mythological structure, the unknown, the unpredictable. And so many men, having grown up with unstable or emotionally distant mothers, find themselves unconsciously drawn to women who replicate that same chaos. It feels like home. Not in the comforting sense, but in the familiar sense. The nervous system, traumatized in childhood, now sees emotional inconsistency as normal. Women are not immune to this either. A girl raised by a cold or dismissive father will often seek out emotionally unavailable men, not because she wants to suffer, but because some part of her believes that if she can win the love of this new man, she will have retroactively healed the pain her father left behind. It's a cycle of unconscious repetition. We call it chemistry. We call it love, but in truth it's reenactment. It's trauma bonding. It's the emotional body trying to resolve a story that never found closure. This is why so many of us are drawn to partners who hurt us. Why we confuse anxiety for excitement. Why we feel alive with people who abandon us. Because our inner child has not given up. It still believes that love must be earned, chased, begged for. And until that belief is healed, lust will always be contaminated. It will never be clean. Part 2. How childhood trauma masquerades as adult desire. Go back to your earliest memories. Not the happy ones. The ones that left a mark. The arguments. The silence. The nights you cried alone and no one came. The moments you were told, directly or indirectly, that your emotions were too much, that your needs were inconvenient, that love had to be earned. Now ask yourself, have you ever felt similar emotions in your adult relationships? Have you found yourself with people who invalidate you, disappear on you, criticize you, or only show love when you perform? If the answer is yes, you are not broken. You are just repeating a pattern your nervous system thinks is safe. Jordan Peterson reminds us that early childhood is not just a stage, it is a blueprint. The mind of a child is not rational. It does not say, "My parent is too immature to love me properly." It says, "There must be something wrong with me." That belief calcifies. It becomes the lens through which you view all future relationships. You enter adulthood carrying the invisible weight of unworthiness, and that weight distorts everything, especially desire. So you meet someone. They're hot, cold, affectionate, then distant. You become obsessed. You tell yourself it's passion, but it's not. It's your inner child saying, "If I can make this person love me, then maybe I wasn't unlovable after all." You're not chasing them. You're chasing redemption. This is the dark alchemy of trauma. It turns emotional scars into lust. It disguises insecurity as chemistry. And because it happens unconsciously, most people never see it. They just keep chasing emotionally unavailable partners, blaming themselves when it falls apart, and calling the whole mess love. Peterson's work, though often controversial, is a call to wake up from this delusion. He doesn't offer easy solutions. He demands responsibility, radical self-awareness. He urges us to clean our room, not as a chore, but as a metaphor for internal order. Because when your inner world is in chaos, you will be drawn to chaos. When your wound runs the show, you will sexualize your suffering. Part 3. The role of fantasy and projection. Creating the lover we always wanted. Fantasy is the fuel of unhealed wounds. And nowhere does this show more clearly than in romantic relationships. Jordan Peterson frequently warns of the dangers of projection, assigning traits, hopes, or values onto someone else that do not actually belong to them. Why do we do this? Because it's safer to dream than to see. Because the truth often hurts more than the illusion. If your wound is abandonment, your mind may create a fantasy around a person who seems emotionally distant. You don't fall in love with who they are. You fall in love with what they might become. If only you were good enough to make them change. Projection is not love. It's a coping mechanism. It turns flawed, emotionally unavailable partners into saviors. It convinces you that this time will be different, that your suffering has meaning, that enduring their cruelty is noble, that loyalty in the face of neglect is love. Peterson challenges this delusion. He insists that love must be rooted in truth, that you must see the other person clearly, not just as who they are today, but who they are likely to become. If they lack responsibility, integrity, empathy, no amount of love from you will change them. In fact, staying with such a person often becomes a form of self-betrayal. The wound in you that demands to be healed becomes the very thing that keeps you in bondage. And lust becomes the prison guard that keeps you locked inside. Real love begins when fantasy ends. When you can look at someone and say, "I see you, not what I want you to be, not what I wish you were, but what you are." Only then can you make choices that serve your healing, not your hurt. Part 4. The cycle of repetition. Why the same story keeps happening. One of the most sobering ideas from Peterson's lectures is that life is not just a linear journey. It is a spiral. Unless consciously interrupted, you will repeat your past over and over again. The faces will change, the settings may differ, but the emotional storyline remains hauntingly similar. You attract the same kind of partner. You experience the same betrayals. You feel the same sense of abandonment, unworthiness, or obsession. Why? Because your psyche is trying to resolve the unresolved. The wound is not done speaking, so it recreates the conditions of your trauma, hoping that this time you'll choose differently, that this time you'll break the pattern. but without awareness, you don't. You follow the same script, you play the same role, and each time the wound deepens. Peterson doesn't just highlight this cycle, he calls for courage to break it, to take radical responsibility for your choices, to stop blaming fate, bad luck, or the opposite sex, to realize that until you heal, your picker is broken, your compass is off. You are not drawn to what is good for you. You are drawn to what is familiar, and familiar is often the opposite of healthy. Healing begins the moment you interrupt the pattern, when you say no more, when you stop romanticizing inconsistency, when you stop chasing people who make you feel like a child begging for love, when you stop interpreting anxiety as passion. This takes work, discipline, pain, but it also brings liberation, because on the other side of that work is freedom, real love, not the intoxicating, short-lived thrill of lust, but the steady, grounding force of connection that doesn't trigger your trauma, but helps you heal it. Part 5. Emotional reparenting, becoming the safe space you never had. Peterson often speaks about the idea of maturity as taking responsibility for your life. But maturity also means reparenting yourself, giving yourself the things your caregivers could not or would not. It means becoming the source of love, validation, and stability you spent your childhood begging others for. This is not about blame. It's about liberation. When you become your own parent, you stop needing partners to complete you. You stop using lust to distract you. You stop chasing broken people, hoping they will fix your brokenness. Emotional reparenting means holding space for your wounds without letting them control your decisions. It means speaking to yourself with kindness, setting boundaries, saying no when your trauma screams yes, choosing peace over chaos, even if chaos is what feels familiar. It means honoring your pain, not feeding it. In the words of Peterson, you must build yourself into someone you can rely on. Clean your room, order your mind, face your dragons, not because anyone will save you, but because no one else can. Lust, when unchecked, keeps you in the dungeon. Healing sets you free. Part 6. The addiction to chaos, when drama feels like love. There is a dark truth many people refuse to accept. When you are wounded, chaos can feel like home. Jordan Peterson has spoken extensively about the seduction of disorder. He frames it in mythological terms. Chaos as the unknown, the feminine principle, the domain in which transformation occurs, but also where destruction lurks. And for many who carry unresolved trauma, the unknown feels more compelling than the known. Chaos, unpredictability, and emotional volatility activate your nervous system in the same way you were activated during your childhood trauma. And in adult relationships, this activation feels like passion. You confuse emotional roller coasters with romance. You equate fighting with caring. You see withdrawal as a test of your love, not a red flag. You crave partners who keep you guessing because deep down, predictability feels unfamiliar. Safe feels boring. Peace feels dead. And so you keep going back to the emotional storm, thinking it's intensity when in fact it's instability. Peterson's insight into this comes through in his views on order and chaos. He often says that without confronting the chaos in your own soul, you will project it onto your relationships. You'll attract chaos, you'll create it, you'll mistake it for aliveness, and you'll sabotage anything that resembles peace. Part 7. Choosing differently. Building desire on truth, not trauma. This is the most powerful part of the journey, and the one Jordan Peterson emphasizes again and again. Personal transformation is not about eliminating desire. It's about orienting it toward truth. Once you recognize your pattern, once you confront the wound beneath the lust, you must begin the work of choosing differently. You must learn to want what's good for you, to cultivate desire not through adrenaline or anxiety, but through compatibility, respect, and emotional maturity. You must choose partners not because they match your trauma, but because they mirror your growth. This requires a new standard, a new identity, one that is not built around chasing love, but embodying it. This doesn't mean you stop feeling attraction. It means you get wise enough to ask, Where is this attraction coming from? Is it rooted in old wounds or in new awareness? Am I repeating or evolving? Peterson talks about integration, the bringing together of the shadow, the conscious self, and the higher aim. This is what it looks like in relationships. You don't deny your past, you transform it. You don't suppress desire, you elevate it. From wound to wisdom, the final choice. So now you know. It was never just lust. It was never just passion. It was the ache of a younger you, screaming through your attraction, hoping to be seen, held, and healed. It was the echo of a wound that never closed, disguised as desire. Jordan Peterson doesn't just leave us with theories. He calls us to act, to take responsibility, to confront the deepest parts of ourselves with courage, because the alternative is worse. To live your life on repeat, to be ruled by an invisible wound, to keep calling suffering love. You have a choice. You can continue to chase ghosts or you can become whole. You can stay addicted to the high of lust, or you can seek the steady ground of love. This path is not easy. It demands everything from you, but it also gives you something priceless. Your freedom, your clarity, your truth, and ultimately your power to love. Not from your wounds, but from your wholeness. If you found yourself in these words, if you felt seen, understood, maybe even exposed, know that you're not alone. This is the first step. Keep walking, keep healing, because the version of you that no longer confuses lust with pain, that version is waiting, and they are worth the journey.